Hi, I'm Joey Busuttil and welcome to the EUDAIMONIA Connection podcast. And now here we are in season 2 and we've been slowly talking to more and more inspirational people from around the world and my home place, Australia. And today we're going to be speaking to someone that I haven't really met physically, but I know she's just gorgeous and she has touched my heart with just her warmth and care that she gives a lot of us hypnotherapists out there. So today we're going to be speaking to MAILIN Colman. Hi, MAILIN, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Joe. How are you?
I'm so in love with you, I think.
Oh, you make me all gooey.
No, I just remember you helped me one day when I was in need, and that feeling that I had when you spoke to me just has stuck in me. It's like it's just been in my psyche. You just made me feel calm, and so I know that you inspire me. So this is not really about you as such as what you do, but more about how you live your life. So we always start with the same question, and that is, how do you define fulfillment? Like, how do you know that you're fulfilled when you do things?
Okay. Well, let's just start with a really juicy one to begin with. That's so variable, isn't it? I guess it's, does it feel right? Does it feel right?
So it's a feeling, it's a feeling for you. You just know.
It's a feeling, and does it make me smile? So a good example of that is probably with clients, it's almost always when a client walks out, I will be rubbing my hands together and I'll be going, gosh, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
So that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Not confined to clients by any means, but that kind of feeling is like.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you, do you think that's come in, because I'm in that place too, and I sometimes think it's an age thing. Do you think, have you always been like that? Or, okay, so what were you like before? What did you do before?
Well, as you know, we evolved through all the different phases of our lives. But, I would say probably in my late teens and all through my 20s, I was always looking for the next thing. The next thing was always going to be the thing. And, that's really, really common, isn't it? In most lives. And, some things happened to me in my early 30s where I just went, whoa, okay.
Yeah, because it shows you that you're chasing all the time.
Yes, and not being in the moment, not appreciating what's actually there right in front of you.
Do you feel that there's been a defining moment in your life that's really concreted that philosophy? That life is about you, not about outside of you?
I would say yes, a couple of defining moments. I mean, there, the Mattdruck syndrome, where, first of all, you'll stub your toe. When the universe is trying to give you a message, you'll stub your toe, then you'll sprain your ankle, then you'll blow out your kneecap, and then you'll break your entire leg in 15 places.
I've been there.
I didn't get quite that far, but I really was a little bit slow in the learning of that lesson. As so many of us are, I had to have a lot of sprained ankles and a few blown kneecaps before it. So a few defining moments. I wouldn't say it's one, but a few defining. I mean, for me, I've had a lot of death in my life. So I guess with every death, it's further honed it.
Yeah. And it's funny because now I teach clients that I say to them, do not go what I went through. I had to have the bottom of the bottom moments, right? So you have this ability to see flags now because, I look back and I go, yep, there were so many defining flags. And I just thought I was better than that. I just kept pushing it until the universe said, you're not getting up. You're not moving until you change it. So let's begin. Okay, so the first question is, can you recall a defining argument that you had that meant something to you? So something that you were really strongly convinced that it was important to you, that you argued about, and that you've got no apologies because it was something that comes from your value system.
Oh, that is really multi-layered. See, one of my very strong points, along with my many not strong points through my 20s and 30s, was that I would advocate for anything and everybody. Even if they didn't want me to, Joe, I would, no. I was the feisty, fiery. So I think.
So you think, I remember coming to a meeting once and I thought, oh my God, Mailin's so strong. You were very strong that I felt like everyone's scared of you. And I love that because I know you're lovely, right? But I'm saying, so I feel that there may have been, you're sort of really good with actually not letting the shit take over. You're really good to say, no, that's not on. Do you find is that true? Are you someone that would stand up?
it took me a long, long time again to learn that. Another slow lesson learning thing in my life. But definitely now, absolutely. I do know my boundaries. I do respect my boundaries. And yes, I know I do come across. But, I will tell you a really defining thing in my recent history was, as you know, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And then, I'd always been very independent and super strong, and quite rightly, scary strong.
That's not a good word. You weren't scary. It was you were assertive. I'm going to change that.
But I was scary strong in that, people just didn't think I needed to any help whatsoever because I was incredibly scary strong. So not true. And, as we all come to learn as life evolves, is being truly strong also means you allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if you can't allow yourself to be vulnerable and have that lip wobble and hold the hand up and say, help me, please, then you
So that's interesting because we were talking about that this last week, that when you're strong, people will think that you're managing, right? Especially through COVID. So how did you then realize that how did you ask for help? Did you just ask?
I did. I collapsed in a heap. I burst into tears and I said, I really don't think I can do this on my own.
And it was okay for you to do that?
I was a little bit horrified, but I mean, I had some practice at asking for help, for 15 or, odd years before that. But that was the moment when I truly, truly knew. It was like, hey, you couldn't be more vulnerable than you are right now.
Yeah. And that's what I think. That's why this is important, because that to me is the whole idea of this whole podcast. The name and everything is about how do we find fulfillment within ourselves without, you have to be vulnerable to do that, because it teaches you to be able to sit with yourself, because asking for help isn't a weakness.
No, far from it. I think it's the ultimate strength.
Yeah.
Asking for help.
It's funny how a lot of men especially think that it's weak and they won't do it. But what's weak is actually not asking, because it means that you're going to collapse.
That's exactly right. Where's your support structure? Where are your struts holding you up? If not.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful moments during that whole breast cancer thing, which, as you know, I'm absolutely fine now. But in the height of chemo, in the height of treatment, I had my very flash turban on, and I was at a ball event, for a reunion from old friends in Darwin. And my oldest mate, mad Italian, called Joe also, he sat down, he elbowed me, because we were besties, all through our teens, 20s and into our 30s. And he literally elbowed me out of the way. He said some rude words and he said, basically, get away, and leaned forward and said to my hubby, enough about her. It's all about her lately. How are you coping?
Wow.
And I burst into tears. I said, right, I'm getting all wobbly now, just even remembering that.
Yeah.
And I burst into tears and I hugged Joe and I said, I'm going to leave you guys to it. This is beautiful. And in his ear, I whispered, thank you. How much do I love you? And I walked off.
Yeah.
It was
it shows you that I believe that there's only two ways to be, and that is a victim or be adaptable. And, I think when it comes to, both of us have had illnesses, and we know that being the victim doesn't work, right? Well, it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for you. So adapting means that we need sometimes to see how we can change without making it all about us. Yes. Because illness can easily can stop us from being happy, because people think that it's the be all. Like when I couldn't walk, I was still Joe. And so I had to learn how to just be Joe in that moment rather than Joe that can walk. And so that's the thing. And also I think people are uncomfortable, aren't they?
They are.
God.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah. They don't want to talk about the vulnerable stuff. They want to just... if I had to hear another person say you're going to be fine, I was going to hit them. It's like, it's okay if I'm not fine, because I have to go through that. So for you, what do you think is your biggest stress in your life? What causes you to get the most stressed? Seeing that you live in a hot, beautiful part of Australia, seeing that you have so many photos online at the moment of you having fun. So what stresses you out?
Chaos stresses me out. I don't enjoy chaos. If chaos is whirling all around me, and this is a really good question, because I'm not a control freak at all. There's very few parts of me that are, you know, we all have a control freak with something or another, but for the most part, I'm not a control freak. But if chaos starts swirling around me and things are really chaotically disorganized and nobody knows what they're doing, I turn into some demon tyrant control freak, must get it all under control, because otherwise my brain feels like it's going to explode.
So are you talking about, so it has to obviously be in your bubble. So what about when you look at Australia and it's chaotic at the moment? Does that the same thing, or is it more personal?
Well, it's both. It's both. And, you know, like so many people in our field, I gave up watching the news a long time ago.
Me too.
I'm very selective.
It's
very
too much.
selective. Yeah, it is. I read online what I need to know about, and then I leave the rest, because it is too much. And, you know, that whole empathetic side of you just becomes blown out, overwhelmed, and you cease to function as fully.
Yeah. So for our listeners then, just give us one strategy that you use to get rid of that stress. So when you got chaos, how do you eliminate that? What's your go-to?
I walk away from the chaos. either if I can do it without turning into an absolute, you know, horrible
demon child.
Yes, I will very so for instance, I'm very, very good in a crisis. But if it's not a crisis and everybody's just being scattered, okay, I will get to a certain point and I'll say, right, take a deep breath and walk.
Well, I'm just wondering if you, I mean, again, my head's playing with me saying, well, if you're good in a crisis and you don't like chaos, does that mean the crisis person comes up and fixes it?
Well, that it is. Yes. Look, I always was a fixer until I realised that you can't fix other people; only they can fix themselves.
Yeah.
So I can find that, but I don't know what it is. I think I might channel my mother, but you know, say
walking away from it's good, I think.
Well, that's just if, you know, people are just getting on the nerves and it's, you know, a whole situation's going nowhere. Like, you know, but if there's something concrete that you can work with, so a medical emergency, for example, I'm your person.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone, I'll give you the number later. When you look at the world at the moment, right? And again, this is a very laid question, but I just want you to, I guess, answer with the first thing that your heart feels. What do you think the world needs right now, or what does it need to get rid of so we can move forward? Because we are in this place. So what's your perspective of what the world needs to get rid of and change?
Oh, jeez. Get rid of ignorance.
Okay.
Get rid of choosing to, let me quantify that. Get rid of choosing to be ignorant. And come back to truth. And
so where are you seeing that being played out? Where are people ignorant the most, you think? Is it just everywhere?
Well, I think it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
I do think it's a pandemic. I mean, don't even start me on politics.
Well, I personally think that we were like that. That was happening before, but we just didn't notice. And the pandemic actually showed us, because now we all have this one focus. So everyone's focusing on one thing, which, you know how, like, I'm sure you would have heard about people that have lost friends. You know how, like, people are just becoming the demons. It's like, it's sort of like, it's like before that, I think we were all trying to be politically correct, but now people are saying what they want to say, and that's the ignorance. People say things that I just think, how on earth? Like, one of my friends believes that aliens are coming to rescue us. It's like I know that I respect choices, but it's like, you have to, like, find a middle ground where you have to, like, step away from reality and also come into other perspectives. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you find that
remarkable? Oh gosh, yes, remarkable thought patterns. Yes, and so I just went off into the great out there for a minute, because I was thinking about a conversation I was having on Friday, and how literally I was speechless. There was nowhere I could go with this conversation. A little bit like your friend with the aliens. I just went and sat back and said, there's nowhere I can go here.
Yeah.
Anything I say now is going to come out sounding judgy.
Yeah.
Credulous.
And we don't know if there's aliens or not, right? But the thing is that when it takes over and it becomes everything, is when it becomes, like, it's dangerous. Like, you know, you can't say, Oh, the aliens will come and rescue us, so we don't need to take a vaccine. Like those sort of things to me are. I've never seen an alien, so all I say to her is, "I love you," but when I see an alien, we'll come back to this conversation.
Yes. Oh, perfect.
Because how do I know? I don't know if there's aliens or not, but let's not talk about them until I see one.
And why would you say aliens are going to come to rescue us unless you have some kind of evidence to support that fact?
Yeah, and that's the thing where I think people are disconnecting from being inspired and fulfilled to look for things that are going to rescue them.
Yes.
So adding on to that question, then what do you think is MAILIN's strategy to heal the world? And again, these are just, I know that you there's probably many, but what would you think that ignorance is in it. Now, how do we heal the world from that?
I'm going to quote the Dalai Lama here, and then I'm going to quote Gandhi, because those are two of my up there dudes. So the Dalai Lama, his famous quote, "My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness." And I think we just have to keep being, let's overwhelm everybody with kindness to remind people of what that looks and feels like.
Yeah.
And then Gandhi, no, actually it wasn't Gandhi that said this. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. No, I don't know.
Yes, I love that one too.
That's right up there on my
because that actually, go on. So the third one.
This is, I don't know who said this.
Right.
But with healing and forgiveness, we get better, not bitter.
Yes. I mean, I feel like those three quotes are being ignored. Like, especially the second one. If everyone just became what they wanted, I think that would be in a better place. But I also think that holistically and historically, the world has to break a little bit before we can move. I don't know. Because I can see all this turmoil from sort of a distance because I don't participate. I feel like they have to go through that before they can actually do what you just said. They're not going to want to change until they feel like they've got their voice heard. I don't know.
Or like you and I started this whole conversation with at the beginning, Mattdruck syndrome.
Yeah.
How many times they have to end up not being able to walk or having their leg broken in 15 places to realise that there may be another way.
Yeah, because one of the scariest things that came out of 2020 was when a very close friend of mine rang me and said, "I can't be your friend anymore because you're too happy." So that really shocked me. It was like, you're saying to me that we are not friends anymore because I'm walking the walk that I want to walk and you want to be a victim, so you want to be... That really shocked me, but I accepted it now because it's been nearly a year. But it was really interesting how people, I think, want to stay in the victim. They want to stay in that story because it's scary in their mind to be something that they don't really know what to be. So many people are not being inspirational in their own life. Rather, they choose to be telling themselves that's too hard. So they might look at you and say, okay, she had breast cancer. She's living in Darwin. She's happy. But at the end of the day, that's too hard. I can't do what she did. Do you know what I mean? But in reality, I think everyone can do it if they just say that they can.
It's a choice, isn't it? It's a choice. And it's finding the network supports around you that enable you to do it in a supported way. Look, I read something this morning. There's an old friend of mine up here who was diagnosed about a year after me with breast cancer. And she was on her own, single woman, and she wrote in a support forum this morning, this inspired me for today. She was responding to somebody else who was really feeling clearly very bad about themselves and their situation. She said, "When I was diagnosed, I felt like I thought I was on my own because I was single. And that turned out to be so far removed from the actual truth. And I'm here to tell you that people will come out and delight and surprise you." And I just went, haven't you come along? Because she was a victim, and haven't you come a long way? And haven't you chosen to look around and see all those people that came out of the woodwork? She never went to chemotherapy on her own, not once.
Yeah. And that also tells me that she has learned that there's nothing wrong with being alone.
Absolutely.
Because I was alone, right? And the thing that I found interesting listening to that story is that when I first got diagnosed, I lost a lot of my male friends because they couldn't come and step up. So I was alone more than the opposite. So I sort of look at that as a cleansing. Like going through a change is also a cleansing because I don't know if you went through this, but you get to know who your real friends are.
Oh, yes.
Like that is, and you sort of go, oh my God, why do I have all those people in my life when they just don't want to, they're so self-absorbed.
Yes.
You know? I know you've got to go, so this is going to be, I'll make this the last question. So I'm a really strong advocate for women's rights and for women's equality and all that. So I want to know, where in your life do you feel like you've been stereotyped, and how did that impact you? Because you're a strong woman, I'm guessing that some men may not like that, and maybe some other women don't like that. So do you feel like there has been some stereotyping with what people think you are? Well, you sort of already gave us an example of one about help and asking for help, but I'm more curious about you in the business world, or you as a strong woman. How have people taken that strength? Because we do live in a tall poppy syndrome world, or Australia is anyway, and I think sometimes people want to cut down a strong person. Did that? Were you stereotyped at all?
I have had a couple of experiences. In that one notable, when I was on a mine site doing some website work, and so in the northwest, you go out to a mine site for 2 weeks. It's not economical to fly you in and out, so you're out there for 2 weeks. And while I was out there, the woman who did the cleaning was basically attacked by the drillers. Now, drillers are sacrosanct. They cost a fortune. Drilling is very it's high expertise level. No one on a mine site wants to upset the drillers. Now,
right. Is that like a power structure?
Totally. It's like they can behave like animals, and nobody will pull them up on it because it's the drillers,
right.
And nothing can happen without the drillers. So there was a bunch of, not all the drillers, but there was a bunch of these drillers that got absolutely maggoted, drunk, and bashed the door down of this,
woman.
this cleaner. Yeah, this woman. And she jumped out the back window and ran to my donger, and we then went to the manager's donger. I won't bore you with all of that. And I was absolutely ropeable. So, and this Deb, she was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful person, but very timid, very shy. Well, up I came.
Yeah, what happened? What did they think of you? What did they think? How did you then get stereotyped in regards to...
Sack.
Really?
I got the sack.
Why?
So, yes, because no troublemakers allowed on a mine site. So I went back. I went back to Perth for my break, and
so what do they consider the door breaking to be?
Well, this is the point. This is what I was jumping up and down about, and I was trying to be reasonable and rational. And the more I encountered non-reasonable and non-rational, the more heated I got. No, okay, there probably were things I could have done differently.
Sure, I know, but I think that you're probably aware of the investigations now taking place at the mines.
Yes.
So, it's like when you talk about that, how long ago was that?
That would have been around late 90s.
See, so look how long we've had to wait, right? I always look at these things about investigations like Parliament, now the mines, and I think, women have been gone through so much stuff and we're still waiting. I just don't understand why we're still waiting. I mean, we're not that ignorant as male species. We know that something's not right, but yet there's always going to be red tape that makes you get sacked, which blows me away. Mm. Just like that girl in Canberra, Mm.
Yeah. Yes, I know it blows. It's how are you sacked for doing what you honestly, with all of your heart, perceive to be the right thing? Advocating for another human being who was not only traumatized, but terrorized.
Yeah. So as a strong woman that's been through the 80s, 90s, you've seen, the changes. What advice would you then give a woman in regards to, because I think your inspiration has been about the persistence, right? You've maintained a strength. So, because a lot of women, I think, crumble. They feel victimized by that, When I see stories about sexual assault and all that, and it's always the women that get blamed, and it's just this weird system. What's the advice that you would give to women in regards to staying in their inspiration and strength, so rather than becoming weakened?
Stand your ground. Always be reasonable and rational. Don't go, not like I did in my 20s and got nowhere fast by going apeshit and, turning into some kind of monster. No, stand your ground in a very calm and reasonable
even though you may not get what you want, you're saying standing your ground will eventually get you what you need rather than bending to the need of men. And sometimes other women, you know, because it's not.
I can absolutely say, you know, whilst I was horrified that I was sacked, that now is an ammunition, if you like, you know, to illustrate how things were. And that is a story that I certainly did not become shy about telling about that mining company for many, many years, and still, clearly, obviously, you know.
Yeah, that's why I love you, because I think that you are a poster for strength. For, you know, I think that there's still even one. I know I said this was the last question, but I just need to ask this because I do get curious. I do get curious about why women do that to each other.
I know.
You know, like I love listening to what you're saying, but then I know that there are going to be women that are going to listen to you and just not agree. And I'm thinking, you would think that sisters of women would want to support each other, but some women actually support what the miners did.
Exactly.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? What, did you feel that in your life and you were sort of telling yourself, I don't care, I'm going to be me?
I feel like, yes, I do. I think that fundamentally people want to be liked, they want to be accepted, and they want to fit into whatever box that they choose to be in.
Yeah.
One of my things that I say to younger women all the time, and younger men for that matter too, is I will say flat out, anytime I can, I don't mind what other people think of me. I truly don't.
Yeah.
And people go, "What? That's an interesting way of putting it." It's like, well, of course I care. I care if people hate me. So I'm not going to say I don't care if people don't like me. I don't care what people think of me. I do care, and I would be hurt if I heard something horrible. But I don't mind what they think of me.
Is that because you know that you can't control it?
That's their right.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say this, and so I used to teach a course called New Opportunities for Women in the prison system in WA. 13 years I was a trainer in a prison education centre. And New Opportunities for Women was a beautiful course that was developed in WA. It was a beautiful, beautiful course that kind of you could develop according to the situation. So, you know, people in prison, low self-esteem, low confidence, you know, you've got to build them up and you know, do all that beautiful self-development work in a gentle, non-threatening way. So when we'd start this whole personal development stuff, I'd say, so who needs to be liked? And of course all the hands would go up, and I'd say, okay, so let me ask you this then. There are over 7 billion people on this planet. Do you think you're going to like each and every one of them? And they'd all look at each other and go, no. Okay, so I'd jump in then and say, why do you want them all to like you then?
Yeah.
It's kind of impossible when we put it in those numbers, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the freedom that you see going, I don't have to.
Yeah.
No.
I agree. I think that freedom is the most liberating thing in the world. When you learn not to take things personally, it's as if you've taken like this drug that's made you feel invincible. And I don't know, that's another podcast. I don't know where we learned that. I think, you know, we learn it from the birth to want to please people. So I'm going to let you go because I know that you've got an appointment, but I just want to say thank you so much. I'm serious. You are such an inspiration, and I'm so glad that you're on this podcast and your voice can be heard by our listeners. So thank you, MAILIN, for everything you shared today.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you. Absolute pleasure talking to you as always.
And have fun, you know, playing with your dog, or I think you're grooming your dog, aren't you?
Look, yes. Look.
Oh, you're going to get your hair cut soon.
Ruby.
Hi, Ruby. Thank you. You've been listening to the EUDAIMONIA Connection podcast. Don't forget, our podcast is out every Wednesday morning. Now, there's only 10 in this series, but you can go back and do some retro for the next season, and we'll get season 3 going probably in 2022. So have a great day, everyone. Namaste. Bye.